The library in the Boston suburbs of Massachusetts is bathed in soft yellow light as dusk falls. Melissa Clark checked the arrangement of bookshelves one more time before beginning preparations for story time. This children's book corner, which could be called her little kingdom, was loved by many parents and children. "Mom, I finished my homework." Melissa turned around to see her son, who had been quietly working on math problems at the last table. Aiden smiled with a composure uncommon for a 10-year-old and closed his notebook. His brown hair was slightly long, and his large blue eyes were inherited from his mother. "Well done, Aiden. We can go home soon. Just wait a little longer." Melissa's gentle demeanor and calm voice naturally attracted the children around her. Today was Thursday, and after finishing her shift, she would return to their mobile home as usual. Though modest, it was their precious dwelling. Aiden had been diagnosed with ADHD, but that didn't diminish his intelligence or depth of compassion. Rather, he could perceive the world around him more vividly, sometimes with painful sensitivity. Even when Aiden was said to lack concentration, he was actually just deeply lost in thought about books, nature, or the universe. "Tomorrow is Aunt Vanessa's birthday party, right?" Aiden said in a small voice. There was a slight tension in his tone. Melissa's expression clouded for a moment. Her sister Vanessa had achieved success at a prestigious local real estate company. Beautiful, sophisticated, and above all, fond of flaunting her success to those around her. "Yes. Grandma will be there too, so let's be sure to greet her properly." Melissa gently placed her hand on her son's shoulder. In her heart, she was suppressing anxiety about tomorrow's party. On the way home, driving their old sedan, Melissa remembered what happened 5 years ago. Her husband Robert left them shortly after Aiden was born, saying he wasn't cut out for family life. After the divorce, she moved into a modest mobile home, balancing her job at the library with raising her child. Meanwhile, her sister Vanessa was rapidly advancing in the luxury real estate industry with support from their well-connected mother, Eleanor. "Hey Mom, what's Aunt Vanessa's new boyfriend like?" "His name is James Morrison. He seems to be the president of a local company. I haven't met him yet, but Grandma is thrilled about it." Eleanor, raised in a wealthy family, had always emphasized appearances and social status. She viewed Melissa's choice of a simple life as a miserable failure, while taking pride in Vanessa's flashy success. At family gatherings, Vanessa was always the center of attention, while Melissa and Aiden were typically pushed to the sidelines. When they arrived at the mobile home, the phone was ringing. It was Eleanor. "The party starts at 7 tomorrow. The restaurant is the Pavilion downtown. Don't be late." Eleanor's voice had its usual coldness. "And dress properly. Don't wear that old dress. Vanessa's friends are all people of social standing." Melissa took a deep breath before answering. "I understand. Aiden and I will be there on time." After hanging up, Aiden looked up at his mother with concern. "Did Grandma say something again?" Melissa smiled and gently stroked her son's hair. "It's all right. Tomorrow is your aunt's birthday, so let's make it a pleasant time." After dinner, even after Aiden had finished his homework and gone to bed, Melissa gazed out the window for a long time. She felt anxious about what awaited at tomorrow's party, mixed with determination to maintain her dignity for her son's sake. A text message from Vanessa arrived on her phone. "I've arranged a special seat for you tomorrow. Look forward to it." Melissa sighed and didn't reply. She knew what her sister's special meant. But for Aiden's sake, she had to remain calm. She closed the window and began preparing one of her few dresses for tomorrow. The Pavilion was one of the most luxurious restaurants in town. Crystal chandeliers shone from the ceiling, and elegant flowers adorned the white tablecloths. Melissa and Aiden arrived at the restaurant exactly at 7. At the entrance, staff in tuxedos gracefully welcomed guests. "We're here for the Clark party," Melissa announced in a slightly nervous voice. She was wearing her best dress, a simple navy knee-length dress. Aiden was also neatly dressed in a button-down shirt and chino pants. The staff checked the list and looked confused. "I'm sorry, but your name is Melissa Clark. I'm invited to my sister Vanessa's birthday party." The staff looked through the list again but shook his head. "I'm sorry, but it seems your name isn't on the seating chart." Vanessa, who had overheard this conversation, approached them in a glittering silver dress, with a glass of expensive champagne in hand. "Oh, you came on time." Her voice was sticky like honey, with a hint of sarcasm underneath. "Don't worry. I've arranged a special seat for you." Vanessa gave the staff a sharp look. "These two are my sister and nephew. Their seats have been arranged separately. Please show them to the special seats near the kitchen." The staff seemed a bit confused but nodded and said to Melissa and Aiden, "This way, please." The seats they were guided to were away from the main dining area, near the kitchen entrance. A large trash bin was placed next to the table, and noise and smells from the kitchen wafted over. While other tables had pure white tablecloths and elegant flower arrangements, their table was covered with just a cheap, faded cloth. "Mom," Aiden asked quietly, "why do we have a table like this?" Melissa felt her heart tighten with pain, but maintained her composure in front of her son. "It's fine, Aiden. We can see everything from here." She forced a smile. When the waiter brought their food, further humiliation awaited. While lavish courses were served at other tables, their plates had only a simple dish. The waiter also gave them minimal attention, pretending not to notice when their water glasses were empty. This must be a mistake. Melissa felt heat gathering in her cheeks. However, seeing her mother Eleanor's cold gaze and her sister's smug smile, she understood this was deliberate. As the party progressed, many guests gathered around Vanessa. Men were captivated by her beauty, and women listened intently to stories of her success. Eleanor, dressed in a luxurious navy blue dress, proudly talked about her daughter's achievements. "James, over here," Vanessa called out. A tall man with handsome features entered. It was James Morrison. He was dressed in a subdued gray suit, exuding a modest yet commanding presence. Melissa observed him from afar. James greeted Vanessa and Eleanor politely and gave them gifts. However, something about his eyes seemed off. He looked around, and for a moment, his gaze rested on Melissa and Aiden's table, and he seemed to frown slightly. As the party reached its midpoint, Vanessa took the microphone to get everyone's attention. "Everyone, thank you so much for coming to my special day," she addressed them in a sweet voice. "I especially want to thank my wonderful boyfriend James, and my mother who has always supported me." Applause erupted from the audience. "But today, we also have special guests," Vanessa's voice changed. "Everyone, please look at that table over there." Suddenly, a spotlight shone on Melissa and Aiden's table. They shrank back in surprise. "Here are the loser family." Vanessa laughed loudly. "A trailer-dwelling single mom and her baggage. My sister. Hard to believe we were born from the same parents, isn't it?" Tense laughter leaked from the audience. Melissa felt her face burning hot. Aiden lowered his head and gripped the tablecloth tightly. Eleanor stood beside Vanessa and took the microphone. "We don't have cake, but we do have leftovers, if you'd like," she laughed coldly. "Oh, Melissa, don't look like that. It's a joke, just a joke. Everyone fails once or twice in life. You just need to try a little harder." The laughter from the audience grew louder. Melissa felt her entire body freeze. When Aiden's small hand grabbed hers, she felt his fingers trembling. Tears were welling up in his large blue eyes. "Mom, I want to go home," Aiden whispered in a shaking voice. Just as Melissa was about to stand up, something unexpected happened. James suddenly took the microphone from a staff member. The venue fell silent in an instant, and everyone's eyes turned to him. Vanessa looked at him with a surprised expression. "James? What are you doing?" But he said nothing. He simply began walking toward Melissa and Aiden's table with quiet yet determined steps. His gaze held a strong resolve that no one had anticipated. Eleanor called out in a confused voice, "James," but he ignored her. When James reached Melissa and Aiden's table, he first bowed deeply. The venue was enveloped in complete silence. He stood slowly in front of the two, still holding the microphone. "Ms. Melissa, Aiden," his voice was calm, but there was a hidden anger in it. "I'm truly sorry for the treatment you've received. Such behavior is unacceptable." Melissa was too surprised to speak. Aiden timidly raised his face and looked at this stranger. Vanessa hurried over to James. "James, what are you doing?" "It's a joke, just a joke." An inside family joke, she tried to smooth things over. James looked at her and quietly shook his head. "You call this a joke?" His voice was filled with deep disappointment. Then he brought the microphone back to his lips. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to take a moment of your time," he addressed the entire venue. "Some of you may not know Melissa Clark, but she is one of the people I respect most." A murmur arose from the audience. Eleanor was clearly disturbed and grabbed Vanessa's arm. "Ms. Melissa works as a librarian at the Central Library in this town. She has established reading programs for children and teaches many children the joy of reading," James continued. "In particular, her special programs for children struggling with reading and writing, and those with developmental disabilities, are highly valued in the community." Melissa's eyes widened in surprise. She couldn't understand why this person knew so much about her. "And this young gentleman is Aiden," James smiled at Aiden. "He won first prize at his school's science fair last month. His solar system model incorporated principles of renewable energy in an innovative way." Aiden's eyes widened. His expression was a mix of surprise and embarrassment. Additionally, Aiden volunteers at the Silver Oaks nursing home on weekends. He reads books to the elderly. He has been diagnosed with ADHD, but that doesn't hinder his compassion or creativity. Rather, he has turned it into a strength. The atmosphere in the venue began to change. Guests looked at each other, and some lowered their eyes in shame. "Since I started dating Vanessa, I've heard a lot about her sister," James continued. His voice took on a harshness. "However, all I heard were disparaging remarks like what we witnessed today. The trailer park loser, the pathetic woman abandoned by her man, the inadequate mother raising a weird kid." The color drained from Melissa's face. These were the words Vanessa typically used to describe her. "Vanessa!" Eleanor cried out. "That's enough, James. Those were private conversations." "Even in private conversation, words that hurt others are still words, Mrs. Eleanor," James calmly replied. "And they are especially unacceptable when directed at family." Vanessa stood frozen with a red face. "Stop it. This is my birthday party. What do you know? As a business executive, I've learned to recognize people's true worth," James spoke quietly. "I believe real success isn't about money or status, but about living honestly even in difficult situations and having compassion for others." He turned back to Melissa and Aiden. "I would like you both to leave these seats." Melissa looked up, thinking they were being asked to leave, but then James continued. "I've had seats prepared for you next to the main table. That's where respected people should sit." The restaurant staff hurriedly set up new seats near the main table. The tablecloth was pure white with beautiful flowers arranged on it. Melissa stood up, still confused. "But, why? You know us." "Actually, I've known about you for over a year," James said quietly, lowering the microphone so only they could hear. "My nephew has a reading disability and participates in your program. Every time he talked about the lovely lady at the library, I was impressed." Aiden smiled a bit shyly. I know your nephew Danny. We read dinosaur books together. James smiled and lightly placed his hand on Aiden's shoulder. Is that so? He always talked about you. As the three moved to the new seats, the atmosphere in the venue had completely changed. Many guests began to show interest in Melissa, and some even displayed apologetic expressions. At the main table, Vanessa's face was red with anger and embarrassment. Eleanor, though trying to act strong, was clearly disturbed. Why my sister? Vanessa confronted James. Why choose that loser over me? James quietly answered, your own words tell you why. He looked at her sadly. I tried to find compassion and sincerity in you, but tonight's events confirm they aren't there. Eleanor stood up indignantly. You're insulting my daughter. Leave this place immediately. No, Mother, came an unexpected voice. Melissa spoke quietly but firmly. You were the ones doing the insulting. Tears shone in Melissa's eyes, but her posture was dignified. I am neither a failure nor a loser. I've raised my son alone and lived with pride. Aiden is not baggage, but the treasure of my life. The venue fell silent. Melissa's words contained emotions she had suppressed for years. At that moment, a small applause began at the entrance to the party and gradually spread. Many guests stood up and applauded Melissa. Mom, Aiden squeezed his mother's hand. Everyone's clapping for us. Melissa smiled at her son. Yes, that's strange, isn't it? For the rest of the party, the situation had completely changed. Many guests visited Melissa's table, asking about her reading program or inquiring about Aiden's science project. The chairman of the local board of education approached her. Ms. Clark, I'd like to hear more about your program. Perhaps we could expand it to other libraries. James watched her from afar, smiling quietly. Next to him sat Vanessa, who should have been the star of the birthday, but she was just stirring her drink with a disgruntled look. Eleanor was also disturbed by how the situation had turned around. That woman always takes everything from me, Vanessa said, biting her lip. James looked at her and said quietly, she hasn't taken anything. She's just being her true self. Toward the end of the party, James approached Melissa's table. He offered Aiden a small science book. I brought a birthday present. It was actually for Vanessa, but I think it's perfect for you. Aiden's eyes sparkled as he accepted the book. Thank you. It's an introduction to astrophysics. James looked into Melissa's eyes. I'd like to get to know you better, and Aiden too. If you don't mind, would you like to go to the museum with me sometime? Melissa hesitated a little but smiled. Thank you. But let's start as friends. Of course, James nodded gently. That's the best way to begin. As the party drew to a close, guests gradually began to leave. Melissa and Aiden had spent an unexpectedly wonderful time at their new table. Aiden had already opened the astrophysics book James had given him and was eagerly reading. Mom, this is amazing. It explains in detail how black holes swallow light. Aiden said, his eyes shining. Melissa smiled at her son's excited face. Let's read it together later. James returned to their table. He seemed a bit nervous, holding a coffee cup. May I join you? Please do, Melissa answered quietly. She was still confused about James's sudden intervention and his motives. James sat down and smiled, seeing Aiden engrossed in the book. I'm glad you like it. Yes, Melissa said, a bit nervously. But I still don't understand why you know so much about us. James took a deep breath. Actually, I knew about you before I met Vanessa. Melissa's eyes widened in surprise. A year and a half ago, my nephew Daniel was diagnosed with a reading disability. He had great difficulty with reading and writing at school. At that time, a friend told me, there's a wonderful program at the Central Library, so I took him there. James's expression softened. That's where I saw you teaching children the joy of books. I was particularly impressed by how you approach children with difficulties. Daniel said it was the first time he felt he wasn't a weird kid. Melissa felt a warmth in her chest. Daniel, yes, I remember. A sensitive and intelligent boy. That's right, James nodded happily. He now reads books on his own every day. That's thanks to you. But what does that have to do with Vanessa? Melissa asked. James shifted uncomfortably in his chair. Actually, I met Vanessa through work 6 months ago. When she introduced herself saying she had a famous sister, I became interested. He paused before continuing. However, the sister she described was so different from the Melissa Clark I knew. She portrayed you as a failure, a pitiful woman. And I wanted to know the truth. Melissa's expression hardened. So you dated Vanessa to investigate me? At first, I just wanted to know what kind of person you were, James frankly admitted. But as time passed, my relationship with Vanessa became uncomfortable for me. I felt uneasy about her values, her condescending attitude, especially her treatment of her own sister and nephew. He looked at Melissa with serious eyes. To be honest, my relationship with Vanessa may have become a means to learn more about you. I admit that wasn't honest. Melissa was hit with complex emotions, surprise, confusion, and a strange sense of relief. You're a very unusual person, she finally said. During this conversation, Melissa could see Vanessa talking with Eleanor in a corner of the restaurant. Both were clearly upset. What's happening? Vanessa's voice gradually grew louder. Why is James talking to my sister? James pretended not to notice but said quietly to Melissa, I didn't plan tonight's events. But when I saw how you were treated, I couldn't stay silent. Aiden looked up from his book. I like you. Thank you for helping Mom like that. He looked at James with honest eyes. James smiled. Thank you, Aiden. You're a very brave boy. You remained dignified in such a situation. At that moment, Vanessa quickly approached their table. Her face was distorted with anger. What are you doing? She grabbed James's arm. After ruining my birthday party, now you're getting friendly with my sister. Vanessa, James said calmly. You need to calm down. Calm down. Her voice cracked. So it was my sister you were after from the beginning, not me. Eleanor joined in, pointing at Melissa. It's always like this. Her specialty is destroying others' happiness. Melissa quietly stood up. Mother, I haven't destroyed anything. James made his own choice. Yes, Melissa, Eleanor said coldly. As usual, you say you've done nothing wrong. But if you hadn't been here, we wouldn't have suffered this embarrassment. James looked at Eleanor with stern eyes. Tonight's events have revealed your true nature, he said resolutely. What's embarrassing is your act of publicly insulting innocent people. Innocent? Vanessa scoffed. She always pretends to be the victim. Failed at marriage, abandoned by her husband, and despite her high education, she's content with a menial job. Stop it. Aiden's voice rang out. He stood up and positioned his small body in front of his mother. Don't say bad things about Mom. Mom works hard every day. She always smiles for me. But I know she sometimes cries at night. Melissa felt her heart constrict at her son's words. Aiden had known her suffering. Vanessa and Eleanor were speechless. The few remaining guests at the restaurant were watching this scene. Aiden, James placed his hand on Aiden's shoulder. You're truly a wonderful son. Your mother is fortunate. After a moment of silence, James turned back to Melissa. Ms. Melissa, this may be sudden, but, if you'd like, I'd like to formally invite you both. A new space exhibition starts at the Science Museum on Saturday. I thought Aiden might be interested. Aiden's eyes lit up. A space exhibition. I want to go. Melissa smiled and nodded, though with some hesitation. Thank you. We'd be delighted. Vanessa looked at them with disbelief. Really? My sister and that brat? Instead of me? Vanessa, James said sternly. Stop calling Aiden a brat. And our relationship ends here. What I saw of you tonight was far from the person I'm looking for. Eleanor put her arm around Vanessa's shoulders and gave Melissa a cold look. Let's go, Vanessa. We don't need to stay in this place. After mother and daughter left, the restaurant became quiet. Melissa exhaled deeply. She felt the tension she had carried for years gradually dissolving. Are you okay? James asked gently. Yes. I'm fine, Melissa smiled weakly. It's been a long night. Let's go home, Mom. Aiden took his mother's hand. James escorted them to the outside of the restaurant. The night sky was filled with stars. I'll see you at the museum entrance at 10 a.m. on Saturday. Melissa nodded. Thank you, for everything. As she was about to get into her car, James said quietly, You are not a loser, Melissa. You are a winner. And you don't need a luxury home or car to prove it. Melissa looked at him and showed a genuine smile. Good night, James. As the car drove away, Aiden turned around from the back seat and waved to James. James waved back, feeling that this night was the beginning of something new. Aiden, hurry. It's about to start. Melissa called from the living room of their new home. The small but bright and warm two-story house was where they had moved 3 months ago. The decision to leave the trailer park wasn't easy, but as Aiden grew, her desire to give him his own room and study space became stronger. Aiden came running down the stairs. Now 11 years old, he was more confident than before. Mom, is my telescope set up okay? I want to show it to James when he comes. It's set up on the balcony, Melissa smiled, stroking her son's head. The doorbell rang, and Aiden rushed to open it. James stood there with a bouquet and a small box. Happy birthday, Aiden, he handed the box to the boy. This is also to celebrate your win at the science fair. Aiden's eyes lit up as he opened the box and found a real meteorite specimen. Wow! Thank you. Melissa came out from the kitchen and smiled at James. She accepted the bouquet and enjoyed its fragrance. Thank you. But today is Aiden's day. You both deserve to be celebrated, James said gently. Your reading program is being adopted by all city libraries now. In the past year, Melissa's life had changed dramatically. Her children's reading program gained attention and received funding from the city's Board of Education. Her relationship with James also deepened slowly but steadily. As they were preparing dinner, an unexpected doorbell sound rang. Who could that be? Melissa wondered as she headed to the door. When she opened it, Vanessa was standing there. She had lost her former splendor and looked tired. Sister. Vanessa choked on her words. Can we talk for a bit? Melissa hesitated for a moment but invited her sister in. I made a big mistake with my real estate work, Vanessa confessed as she sat on the living room sofa. I might get sued by a client. I need help. Melissa quietly looked at her sister. Memories of past wounds resurfaced, but she also felt a strange sense of liberation. She no longer needed to be hurt by her sister's words. I'll see what I can do, Melissa answered quietly. She hadn't forgiven her sister's past actions, but she chose to extend a hand as a human being. Later that night, after Aiden had gone to bed, Melissa and James were watching the stars on the balcony. Are you going to help Vanessa? James asked quietly. Melissa answered while looking up at the night sky. I may not be able to forgive completely. But I don't want to live in hatred. Besides. She held James's hand. I now have happiness to protect. James gently kissed her hand. You're truly a strong woman. The sound of fireworks could be heard from afar. The town's summer festival had begun. As fireworks illuminated the night sky, Melissa thought, life is a strange thing. At the darkest times, unexpected light can shine through. And sometimes, that light begins to shine from within oneself.